Good evening, Mr. and Mrs. America, and all ships at sea. Judaism. What do we really know about it, and more specifically, know about the practitioners thereof? Why would this puppet be asking such questions, you ponder? So it seems to the untrained eyes of this rag doll that the United States is, and has been for a long time, completely enamored with the practitioners of Judaism, and largely to the detriment thereof, from everything I can see. We all know the accounts of the early American settlers at Jamestown, Virginia, and Plymouth, Massachusetts. In case you did not notice, those were Protestant Christian settlers. They were not Buddhist, they were not Hindus, they were not Catholics, and most certainly they were not Jewish. No, my loyal viewers, when they came to the newfound continent of North America, they were escaping religious persecution in Europe in what came to be known as the Inquisition. Now that said, were the shores of North America automatically assumed to be closed to anyone outside the Protestant Christian belief system? Well, in actuality, no, but in practice, yes, at least for the first centuries of the addition of outside settlers to the North American continent. I've done a previous video on where the Catholics did go. Crime and corruption soon did follow. And why would it make any sense whatsoever to bring those here who were hunting and killing your kind back in Europe? And so it went, friends and followers, that European settlers arrived here in droves beginning in the 1600s and continuing through the dual World War periods of the early to mid-1900s. And sometime during that time period, Jews began to travel to the Americas for various reasons, but it also needs to be noted that there was resistance from Christian settlers who saw the Jews as potentially disruptive to the harmony of their newfound homeland. Now, before coming across as a total Jew hater and the dreaded anti-Semite gasp by you, allow me to preface. Having spent much of my life in Protestant Christian churches, I was taught long and well of the Hebrew people, their history, and that we are to pray for the peace of Jerusalem. While I love all people, including those believing in Judaism, I also believe that we need to take a balanced look at the overall effects of these people have had and continue to have on the United States of America. Also, having said all of that, I do believe that the American supposedly Christian ideology of dispensationalism has absolutely no scriptural backing whatsoever, and is false doctrine taught by some American denominations, most prominently being the Southern Baptist Convention. We have to get to a point where it is perfectly acceptable to openly discuss any and all topics, the Jews included, and not have all the anti-Semite shouters come out of the woodwork to silence the conversation. I look around of late, and so many places I see the detrimental effects that Jews have had and continue to have on mine and your lives. Yes, Jews have hospitals and medical clinics that benefit many, but they also are the greatest users of interest on credit and loans to entrap and enslave those outside their religious system. Now, I have done a previous video sometime back on the corruption wrought upon our land, especially of late, by moneyed Jews. So I'll try not to repeat points I made there, but do believe the topic deserves further discussion and is sorely censored at the lamestream media due to the fact that many of those corporations are Jewish owned and operated. There are certain topics they will never address, so it is squarely up to the pundits such as this puppet to point out the things that need to be pointed out. It is readily evident, friends and colleagues, that most of what currently ails this nation can be directly attributed to the Jews. Don't believe me? Think I am merely a big Jew hater? You're free to think what you will, but that is very far from the truth. I do, however, believe the truth regarding corrupt Jewish control and influence needs exposed for all to see. Would I go so far as to say that the final solution of the Third Reich was preferable? That is a resounding no. Do I, however, understand how Germany of the 1930s saw very same corrupt controlling influence of wealthy Jews in their land and were sorely suffering due to them? Yes. This puppet never candy coats, folks, and is not about to start that practice now, just so some moneyed elites will decry me as the dreaded anti-Semite. Never will I bow my knee to them, never. So, viewers, are wealthy Jews in the upper halls of our government wielding much influence over each of our daily lives? Yep. Try Chuck Schumer and Adam Schiff for starters. In fact, Jews currently occupy 25 of 435 total seats in the United States House of Representatives, or 6% of all seats total. They also currently occupy 10 of 100 total senatorial seats, or 10% of all possible positions in that House of the U.S. Congress. Factor in that Jews only make up slightly more than 2% of the overall U.S. population, and you begin to see the picture. But for a better picture, consider the true positions of power within our democratic republic, those of finance. According to Forbes, 17 of the top 25 hedge fund managers in the U.S. are Jewish, or try a whopping 68%. Wow! How does a particular group of Americans that make up only 2% of our overall population gain 68% of all positions that manage yours and my financial futures? How exactly does that happen, folks? Additionally, friends and colleagues, allow us to consider something called the Forbes 400. It is a listing of the 400 wealthiest American citizens. If you consider that Jewish people make up less than 3% of American citizens, that should, by my limited puppet mathematical skills, equate to roughly 10 people on that list. Well, my compadres, try 100 instead. Yes, 100 Jews, or a whopping 25% of the 400 wealthiest Americans are of Jewish beliefs. Now, puppet, calm down, you say. Why should I, my viewers? Please tell me why. You have to, friends and colleagues, in the least realize that wealthy people, no matter their backgrounds, tend to wield social and political influence that far exceeds their small little circle that is often painful to those outside of their little sphere of beliefs and customs. So you know why green and environmental causes are bandied about like a walloping club in political circles the past couple of decades? Would it have anything to do with Jews, Bill and Melinda Gates, pressuring so many politicians to cave to their supposedly charitable brainwashing foundation? Want to know why so many working class, middle income Americans have had their jobs yanked from under them time and again over the past 3+ decades? Would it have anything to do with wealthy Jewish investment bankers and speculators who care zero about anyone outside their little sphere of fellow wealthy Jews, flippantly buying up companies, gutting them, and laying off hundreds of breadwinners in a single swoop? This, folks, is what needs to be considered every time that some miserable thing is pushed upon you of late. The moral decay and decadency that has been rotting the U.S. culture for the past 50 years. Try the Jews who overwhelmingly control the media conglomerates and Hollywood studios. Yes. Oh, by the way, Jews also control and operate the large pornography corporations that continue to corrupt so many lives to this very day. Would there ever be any laws passed within the halls of the U.S. Congress to rope in any of these greedy investment houses or immorality brandishing motion picture studios? Think again, especially when the halls of Congress are overly populated with fellow Jews who are just as morally bankrupt as those pushing the trash upon an unwitting American public. To wrap up this week's tirade, why would anyone under the sound of my voice for a single minute doubt that the Israeli government is not in fact pulling the puppet strings on the American government, and that the entire Jeffrey Epstein fiasco was not funded and enabled by them? After all, you have an American government system that has been artificially enamored with the nation of Israel forever, and Jeffrey Epstein was merely an operative in money laundering to clandestine causes backed by the Jews in the Middle East. Adolf Hitler, though insane, did see the Jews for what they were and acted out. I am by no means supporting the final solution of the Third Reich, but am understanding of how the German population are quite easily swayed, considering everything we are now seeing come to pass here in the United States. Good night, my loyal viewers, and sleep well.